Hello everyone, welcome back. You're watching Empyrion Galactic Survival episode 106. I'm Enigmius and today we're in the Cetorhinus on the inside. And the whole episode today is about taking these blocky sort of constructs that you see and smoothing them off in a way that reduces the risk of giving you problems on the outside of the ship, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. This is one of those kinds of videos that can either be just kind of a relaxing watch and informative, or it can be really, really dull and not all that interesting. I would prefer for it to be kind of relaxing and informative, so we're going to do a slightly different format. Still going to be sped up like our videos usually are. It's going to have all the menus removed like we usually do. I'm going to try and give you as much of the information that I have to give at the beginning, and then you can just watch the rest and listen to the music for as long as you want. At the end of the video, right before it cuts to the end slate, there will be a very brief run-through that will let you see what the ship looks like on the inside once we've done a few passes with this whole sort of approach. And you'll also be able to see the other side of the ship that hasn't been touched yet, and it's kind of an interesting contrast. So if you're wanting to see that sort of thing, but not necessarily wanting to watch the whole video, just remember, you can watch that at the very, very end. So what we're seeing here, we're in the gunner's pod at the front of the ship, and I'm kind of working in horizontal strips. You can see I started at the top and I kind of smoothed it out, and then I dropped down another row and I smoothed it out, and now I'm doing a larger section all at once because it's basically the same thing. It's just duplicating all the way down. And what you end up with is something that it's not necessarily, well, it's obviously not seamless, but it's not bad either. It's got its own sort of charm. It's one way to approach these kinds of things when it doesn't look like making a seamless sort of wall or panel or whatever is going to be especially easy to do. You can just handle things in strips. You can either do like a horizontal row, or you can even do vertical columns and just work that way. And as long as you're consistent, it doesn't have to be seamless to be something that you're going to be happy with. We're here at the back of the ship now. We finished the gunner's pod and we already jumped to the back of the ship, and I'm just kind of getting things set up to start the process of smoothing things out. And you can see there's quite a bit to be done. One of the first things that I do when I'm about to start this process is I go from side to side, back and forth between the two halves of the ship, and I make sure that everything is the same on one side compared to the other. If I don't do that, if something is different for whatever reason, because I missed a block, I missed a row or something when I was duplicating a particular part, what ends up happening is I'll finish one side, get it all smooth on the inside, and I'm happy with it. I go to duplicate it over on the other side and things don't line up, and it's a real pain in the butt to figure out why after you've already smoothed the one side. So it's well worth your time to just kind of go back and forth and check and make sure everything lines up, fix anything that you have to, and then start when both sides of the ship are kind of identical, so that you don't have to worry about problems duplicating later on. Of course, if you use symmetry mode, it's less likely that you're going to have that kind of a problem. But for me, as you know, if you've been following the series, I don't use symmetry mode, so it's just something that I have to be aware of. The other thing that I want to point out as being very, very important is approach the process from the assumption that you can't remove any of the blocks that are already there. So if you come to a particular part of your ship where it's all blocky and stuff, you built from the outside and now you've got to smooth it out on the inside, take a look at all of those blocks and say, if I absolutely have to, yes, of course I can remove those and put something else there, but I would rather not. I don't want to have as part of my plan removing all kinds of different blocks so that I can place other different kinds of blocks, because as you can see in the inset, what very often ends up happening is it looks like a cube on your side from the inside of the ship, and then when you remove it, it ends up being something else because the detailed side was facing to the outside of the ship, and now you've got two choices. You can either put the block back, which is not especially difficult, but it's tedious compared to just placing something like you normally would, because the detailed side is facing away from you, Or the other option is you can go to the outside of the ship and you can rework it to accommodate the block that you just removed, which to me is a recipe for misery and disaster. So the piece of advice that I would offer, that you're free to take or leave, of course, is to assume that whatever blocks are there have to stay there. And then when you get to the various different points that are inevitable in the process of trying to smooth things out, if you come across a block that really it would be so much easier if you could just remove it, give it a shot. Give it a try. See if you can remove it without changing what's going on the outside of the ship. If you can, fantastic. If it ends up punching a hole in the hull that's an odd shape, put it back, come up with a new plan. That's kind of one of the things that I've learned early on, and since then I've been very, very careful about. But like I say, it's not a hard and fast rule that you can't remove it. It's just don't include that as part of the plan making process, that it should always be an option. So now we've got the rear portion of the ship, basically the rear quarter, I guess you could say, is taken care of. We've got this little section in the middle that we're filling in now, and then we have this front quarter that we have to take care of, which is the worst of the bunch. And I say worst a little bit apprehensively, because I don't want to make it sound like a horrible process. When it comes to building a ship, this is probably one of my least favorite things to do, but that's not to say that I'm miserable while I'm doing it, because if I was, I wouldn't worry about trying to maximize the interior space of the ship by smoothing out these different things. I would just build walls that intersect in ways that I don't have to worry about the ugly stuff on the other side. I just get it done. The way that I'm doing it now gives me an opportunity to not lose big chunks of interior space inside of the ship, because I built walls instead of just smoothing the walls that were already there. Having said all that, it's like anything else. The more familiar you are with the blocks that are available to you and how they go together, the faster and easier this process comes together. If you're not very familiar with it, this is one of those tasks where if you're willing to be a little bit patient and take your time, this is how you become familiar with the blocks that are available to you and how they go together. It's just a matter of practice to gain that familiarity. There's no magic tip or trick. There's nothing that anyone is born with that gives them the insight which block to use in Empyrion to make things work the way that they want it to. You just have to take your time. Treat it like something that you're doing because you enjoy doing it. And if you don't enjoy doing it, then make walls. Make larger ships so that you still have all the interior space you need, and just make walls instead of smoothing these guys out. So that's really all I'm going to say for this video. There's a few minutes left where you can watch as I smooth out this last little bit, or mostly smooth it out. Like I say, at the very end shows you what it looks like after a few passes in a very quick run through. It's not by any means a detailed run through. The next episode is going to be about the texturing and the painting, probably on the exterior, and it'll be based on how much time it takes to go over what I've done there. I don't expect it to be super complicated, inside or outside, but I do want to take my time on this build. We've spent so much time already, not only building the ship, but acquiring materials and all that other stuff to continue building the ship. I don't want to do a rush job in the last stretch and kind of have it come out less than it could be. So you look forward to that if you want to see that. I think it'll be the first episode I've done in a long time that focused in any way on painting an entire ship and things of that nature. And then once that's done, I think it'll be a blueprint episode after that. So like you say, the list of things to do is getting shorter and shorter, and sooner or later it's got to come to the final stages, which is giving you guys a blueprint and me moving on to the next ship to design and build. So if you want to be notified about the next episode and future episodes, the easiest way to do that is to subscribe to my channel and or follow me on social media. Links for social media are always in the information section below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.